Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Akibatun lil mustaqim. Allah fi kul umri Nasta'in. Allah fi kul umri MG. Innahu Rabbi ladhi yuhibbu mu'min wa ibadatuhu wa salawatuhu min mukhlisin. Innani Altay subhanahu wa ta'ala amtanani wa shukri. Muhammadan huwa Sayyidina Makbubana inhu kana Sayyidin Mursaleen. Salawatu Allah Ta'ala wa salamuhu alayhi. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh lil ikhwani wa wati fi din wa salamu ala mani taba'a huda lil ikhwani wa wati fi Africa, Asia, Europa, America wa kulli makan. Halen salam bikum. My dear brothers and sisters, thank you for showing up. My dear sister Amina, salamu alaikum. My dear sister Abina, salamu alaikum. And my dear brother Saeed, happy companion, salamu alaikum. And today we will cover again about the Aqidah and a very important aspect of the Aqidah. Every Sheikh of Islam from every ear tackled this issue. Each one wrote about this issue. Each one stressed this issue. And it is such importance, especially in modern times, because you see the events in Sudan. You see the events that's happened in Libya. You see the turmoil in Tunisia and some other Muslim states. You see the turmoil in Yemen, Syria, and most of the Muslim countries have some turmoil in it. And a lot of this is because of the fact that the Aqidah, Islamiyah, is not being followed. They have forgotten about it, and the learned men can't talk about this issue as well because many of them are afraid for their lives. We understand, you know what's happening in Saudi Arabia. You see when some of the scholars have stepped up, you see what has happened to them. So we're in a time and age now where subjects like this are very dangerous. And these subjects here are just to educate our people. And it's not designed to cause any quote unquote revolutions or terrorism. And yet, because we cannot talk about these issues, the things that I just forementioned are happening a lot. Revolutions and terrorism are happening because the scholars cannot talk about these issues and to educate the Muslims in it. And this is a big problem. And my focus basically as well is on the black man and Muslim in America in particular, because this is where, I was born and raised. And so, and we have a myriad of problems. And as I said before, we are the last of the totem pole as far as knowledge. So in the Aqidah, the issue of the Jamaat is big because there's a lot of misunderstandings about the Jamaat. So the Tamsuka Jama'a Wajib, clinging or adhering to the Jamaat is wajib, meaning you have to do it. You must abide by it. You must cling to it. because you cannot have ummah as we have it, because we have rules in Islam. We have strict rules. This what makes us different than many of the others, like Christians and others. You see them, you don't know who's in charge. You just you turn on your TV set, and you see, thousands of pastors each quoting something from the Bible that differs from the other, and so forth and so on. And you don't have clear guidance and so forth. The Muslims, we have the clear guidance. It's just that the Muslims are not following it, and that's the problem. So when we look at clinging to the Jamaat, you say, well, okay, I know, I heard about the Jamaat Islamiyah, the Islamic groups. Let's clear up something quickly on this. The Jamaat is built on truth. It's not a Jamaat, even if there's 1 million followers, if it's built on bid'ah, if it's built on lies, it's built on tarif kalam, meaning perversion of the words of subhanahu wa ta'ala and the words of our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, is not a Jamaat, even though they claim to be a Jamaat, but they're not. The first meaning, the Jamaat is a group, even one person can be that. And it's built on the Quran and the Sunnah and the truth of it. You say, well, how can, if I look at Arabic, I'm looking at the dictionary, it says community, means a congregation. Yes, but in Islam, the first Jamaat was who? Our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. He was the first person, because everybody around him was involved in what? Was disbelief and shirk billah, assigning partners to subhanahu wa ta'ala. When I say shirk billah in Arabic, assigning partners. So we know that he was the first Jamaat. So you can have 3 people in the Jamaat. If they're on the haq, meaning they're on the truth and they're on the Quran and the Sunnah, they're not making bid'ah. They're taking the Quran and Sunnah from the Prophet ﷺ, plus the 3 favorite generations. Then this is a Jamaat. Today, as I've been harping every week now, the Prophet ﷺ said 73 of these Jamaat Islamiyah would be present. 72 will go to the fire. So we have to cling on to the one that is governing, is ruling, is following his way, his sunnah. And this is what we're talking about here. So it's wajibin ala kulli Muslim, meaning here it's wajib, meaning it's obligatory on every Muslim. Every Muslim must have this ta'at on the Jama'ah. That's why we have ummah. The Christians don't have this. The Jews have it to a certain degree, but we have it, and it's more extensive, and we have more definition to it. The Christians don't have anything such as this. So here is wajib, that you have to have your bay'ah to this, your obedience to it. Now, yuta'a imam Muslim wa ta'at Allah. I just said here in Arabic, the obeying the imam, Muslimin. Imam could be the head of state. I'll get into the definitions of that. Imam is the leader of the Muslimin. If you must follow him, and if you do, then you follow subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the proof on this is in Surah, as I listed here, Surah 4, verse 59. And subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it very clear here. And I'll read this in English. O ye believe, obey Allah and obey the messenger and those charged with authority among you. This is important, my brothers and sisters. I'll get into this part here with the authority among you. If you differ in anything among yourselves, refer to Allah and his apostle. If ye do believe in Allah and his last day, that is best and the most suitable for final determination. in the Muslim world today, you hear 1,000 times over, to the point where it's nauseating. Democratia, democratic. No, you heard what Subhanahu wa ta'ala said here? There's no such thing as that in Islamic world. It is not. This is kufr and shirk. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says you obey him and Subhanahu wa ta'ala and those appointed among you. You remember the rule in Islam. If there's three of us, one of us have to be the Amir, have to be the Imam, have to be the leader of it. And so this proof here gives you what Subhanahu wa ta'ala has basically told you what's happening with the leader. You obey him, you obey the leader, you obey Allah. You disobey him, you disobey Allah. Now we get into the rules. I know someone say, oh man, look, I know my Imam, man, I heard he's smoking crack. I saw him come out of a crack house, or I saw him drinking beer. I'll get into that here, inshallah ta'ala. Now, again, the tafsir to this is beautiful. Here, this Sheikh of Islam, and also I wanted to clarify something too. The book on Asol fi al-Aqida from Sheikh Tarifi in Saudi Arabia, it's a must for all Muslims to get this. If you can't read Arabic, it's in Arabic that is not very difficult. He's wrote it in such a way that it's easy to follow. But you have to have this Aqida, my brothers and sisters. I'm sorry, this is the truth, because we have so many problems, and a lot of our problems is based because we're totally ignorant of the Aqida, and we are easily influenced by those who are making innovations because we don't understand the Aqida. And so in the tafsir of this verse, again, he talks about the ta'at Allah and rasulihi. Rasulihi is the messenger, his messenger in Arabic. And this, again, is important. Following Subhanahu wa ta'ala, following our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. This is part of the Jamaat. This obedience that I give is part of the Jamaat to Subhanahu wa ta'ala and to our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. So when we look at this in a nutshell, part of this Sharia, the tafsir of this is beautiful as well. Subhanahu wa ta'ala here has given us a lot of guidance. And that guidance has assisted us here in understanding about this issue. And Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, not Subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm sorry. The Sheikh of Islam says, Ya yuhadina sadiqu Allah wa rasuluhu wa amalahu bi shariahu. Now, remember I told you there's no democrat ways and means in Islam. Here is we talk about this. It's true. Subhanahu wa ta'ala and our Prophet and their legislation, not the legislation from the Americans, not the legislation from the Chinese or the Russians or anybody else. The legislation, part of the Jamaat, is the legislation that comes from him and from our Prophet. Again, this is part of the Jamaat. This Jamaat cannot be, if you come to a group and they're talking about the Biden administration, how they're following it, how they made thought on it, and they're pushing their way to bring the Muslims to democratic ways and means, you stay away from them. You get away from them as fast as, I don't care how beautiful platform they have. I don't care what they're telling you. You get away from them because it's not that. And this is why, again, my brothers and sisters, I've had disagreements with Muslims the last couple of weeks because they have joined groups that are not part of what just was said here, where our Sheikh Islam explained this in detail. These groups, we have them in Africa and everything. Beautiful. Yes, they have common goal, but there's things in them that take you away from Islam. You can't be it. You must follow again here. You must truly adhere to subhanahu wa ta'ala and his laws and our prophet and his laws. The others cannot do that. As much as admire you are of them, but when you go back into it, what are you going to do when it's time when they're serving food on the table? They're going to serve you pork. And the group goes and then they celebrate and announce the congratulations to people for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And you're a Muslim. And yet, when it's time for Ramadan and for Eid, the same kuffar group that you have joined don't say anything about Ramadan. Don't say anything about your Eid. They don't say, congratulations, Yahya. You went through Ramadan. Congratulations. Now you passed Eid. Congratulations. Or this is the starting of Hajj. Congratulations. They don't tell you that, but they'll give you something about Christmas. They'll give you something about New Year's. You stay away from those groups, my brothers and sisters. You see, this is the trapping. Here, I'm giving you the proof. You can say, well, you know what? Yeah, man, look, again, I'm in LA. I'm going to follow. I belong to this one group here. Now, I preface this, my brothers and sisters, by saying this. I live in the United States. I know how difficult it is. And when you have a homeless, say there's a homeless organization, there's nothing saying that you can't give money to feed the homeless. They're human beings, irrespective if they're Muslims or not. There's no harm in that, my brothers and sisters. You give money, charity for people that are needy, especially in a time of need now with this virus going on. It's taking people out of their job. There's no problem in that. But when you get into the inner workings of this group and you begin to go into the leadership part of it, this is where the problem begins. And then when you start to go and sign off on when they're making, they have just took a loan from the bank was based upon riba, which is a deadly sin in Islam. This is what I'm talking about. You have to be very mindful of that and careful of that, my brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother Isaac. So again, we must make this Jama'a as prescribed by subhanahu wa ta'ala and as prescribed by our Prophet ﷺ. There's no other way around it, my brothers and sisters. I know you're going to hear people say this is Wahhabism. This is Salafiyah. This is Sufism to solve. You'll hear all kinds of things trying to denounce this or try to denounce me by saying you this. And not again, because they don't understand the Aqeedah. All of us should be on the Salih according to the Prophet and the first generations. They are that, not the ones we see out today, not all of them, but many we see today. So here I'm giving you something straight from subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not Wahhabism. This is not Salafiyah. This is not Sufism or tasawwuf. This here is straight from the words of subhanahu wa ta'ala and our favorite and our best scholars who all agree to this, my brothers and sisters. So we have to look at it as this. Now, as I said, what is the Jamaat Islam? It could be one person, it could be 1,000 people, it could be 1 million. If it's based upon the Quran and Sunnah and not bid'ah. And we know this is the case because the Prophet said this, alayhi he says 73 groups, 72 will be in the fire. As I told you now, I refuse to join the Islamic groups today, anywhere, because I know that they have some truth to them, yes, but they have a lot of innovations. Those innovations will take you to the fire. So this is why I stay away from them. and I see their pomp and pageantry. I see they're doing this and they're doing that. Yes, but you stay away from them. I'd advise, if you're going to join, my brothers and sisters, an Islamic group, you make sure you have the courses in the Aqeedah, please, to understand it, because if you don't, you can get misled, and you're not going to have an excuse during Yom Qiyamah, because you can't claim ignorance. So you have to be very careful, my brothers and sisters. I refuse to join any Islamic groups today. I've said many times, I'm waiting for something else that our Prophet ﷺ said. Da'ifatan on Surah. I gave a class on this is who I'm waiting for. I'm hoping they come in my lifetime. Most likely not. That's what I'm waiting for. That's where I go and make my bay'ah, because they will be on the Quran and Sunnah, and there's no doubt about that. But the other ones today that's out there, they say they're on the Quran and Sunnah, and then you hear them on TV talking about democratic ways and means. See, that's why I said, get the courses, my brothers and sisters, on the Aqeedah. Learn this, please, so you don't get fooled. You don't get fooled, and then you end up having to explain this in Yom Qiyamah. Don't do that. Stay away from these groups right now. This is what I advise, because they're troublesome. Secondly, the Jamaat. Every Jamaat has to have an imam. We'll get into this. Every Jamaat has to have an imam, because again, if you have three or more, you have that somebody in charge. This is the criteria. This is our rules. I'm not talking about what happened with the Jews or the Christians or the Hebrews. No, I'm talking about our rules as Muslims. And here, you must have a imam, and he must be in charge. And you must again make ta'at on his commands, and it's obligatory that you do this. And here again, we go into the other part of this. Those that you would nominate, the masjid. You built a masjid. You guys have a vote, or you talk among yourselves to put a imam of the masjid. You must follow him. Again, but today, I understand. I will preface this again. I know what's happening in America and everywhere in the Muslim world. We have a lot of imams who are bought and paid for. The government installs them there. They're puppets. They don't give rulings, and you know what they are. I understand that. In those cases like this, I won't get into issues of fiqh. In cases like this, my brothers and sisters, it's not that you stay away from the masjid. You don't. You go there and you make your prayer, and that's it. And then you leave out. You did your obligation. As far as following him, no, you do not follow him. You go to make your prayer, you do your thing, and then you leave. That's the best thing, because what if the next masjid from you is 100 miles? How can you afford to put the gas? Saying you in LA and you have a masjid that's 40, 50 miles away. You can't. So you go to the masjid there. You know what this imam is. Now, if he's doing other things, that's a different story. If he's doing blatant kufr, you know him, you see him out on the street, he's out there smoking marijuana. That's a different situation altogether. But if you know him to be weak and so forth and so on, there's some things about him, you have to be very careful of that before you label him. But you go in, make your prayer, and you move out. That's the best advice I can give you. And when you nominate somebody to be the imam, you make sure, my brothers and sisters, that this person is on the Quran and Sunnah. I can't stress that, any harder. I know in the United States, it's very difficult. I was there. And we have brothers who are imams by default, and they can't even read the Quran in Arabic. They can't even understand the tafsir of it. They can't even tie in the Quran to the hadith of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. And yet they got the title of imam. because out of necessity, because of travel, and because you don't have abundance of masjids to go to, you have no other choice. You go to this masjid because you want to fulfill your obligation, especially for Salat al-Jumu'ah. And it's very difficult. I know. I've talked to some of these brothers. And when I talk to these brothers, basically I got a cold shoulder for them. And I said this 1,000 times. They begin to call me names. They call me Black Arab and some other things. That, hey, you're not African American no more because you're in Africa. I've had them tell me many things. But there in the United States, I know it's very difficult. I understand that. You don't have the abundance of messages like you do in a Muslim country. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said he washes his hands of us who go to move among the mushrikeen. This is a reason why for that. Because the draconian laws and the way that things are run in the United States, it's very difficult for you to gain Islamic knowledge in the United States. And hey, I was there. I know that. And the only way you're going to actually gain it, you have to leave out from it and get schooling somewhere, and then come back to the United States if this is what you want to do and make dawah to be the imam of the masjid. And we've had that. We have brothers, brilliant brothers in the United States who've done that. They left the scene, went into Messer, to Egypt, went into Azhar, but only a few of us are allowed to go because the government puts their foot down. They only handpick certain African Americans now to go to these fine Islamic schools. And that's by design, isn't it? What we're left with is those, as I talked about before, that have no training to be imam. And that's dangerous. It's very dangerous, my brothers and sisters. Now, let's look at this. Again, if the Jama'a is based upon innovations, either هذه فكرة جماعة على بدعة. I just said in Arabic here. If the concept of this Jama'a is built on bid'ah, on innovations, it's not a Jama'a according to Islam. Even if they're praying, even if the brother is doing things. Now, I'm not talking about certain small issues that we differ. And I'll give you an example of that. And this is a big one. And I've seen people do all kind of crazy things because of it. We have the Hanafi, that's a whole different class. The Manhaj and the four favorite schools. And the Hanafi, they have their belief in Salat al-Fajr, when we should make it. The Maliki, where I live, we have a different rule on it, right? I see people making different things, even making takfir on the Hanafi because they follow what they've been taught. That's not bid'ah because both are right. And we cannot, the Hanafi, they make their Salat al-Fajr more closer to the dawn than the Maliki. You understand? Both are correct, but one is more correct than the other. I won't get into that, but that's not bid'ah. You see, it's a difference. Bid'ah, I'm talking about, is a group when you see them going to masjid and you see them twirling around, or they're dancing, or they're moving up and down like they have gotten some devilish mechanician or something. You see them clapping and doing all. We have Muslims doing this, especially under the Sufi. That's the bid'ah I'm talking about. That type of thing. That's the bid'ah I'm talking about. Stay away from that. Stay away from that Jama'a because it'll send you to fire. So now we're going to get into some sensitive issues here. The Muslim wa علاقته min imamatuhu min muslimin. The Muslim and his relationship with the imams from the Muslims. This is a big one, my brothers and sisters, because we have deviations all over the world of this particular subject here, and it's shameful. if they understood the Aqidah and the Tawheed. I put in the chat room, I put something because I wanted some people to follow this. If you want to follow, I've talked about Tawheed. Part of Tawheed is what I'm talking about now. Following our learned men, our scholars, and following our prophet. This is wajib. You have to do this. You must follow. This is wajib, meaning obligatory upon you. Now, each one of us have to have a leader, and we have to follow this leader, as I've been saying. And we follow this leader if he is on the Quran and the Sunnah. And also, we follow the ijtihad. Now, the ijtihad. Now, this is something here where we're talking about there's rulings. I'll give you an example. In the time of the Prophet, our favorite generations, and many of our favorite scholars from way, way back, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have YouTube. You see what I mean? So we have to make independent decisions, and we have to follow that. They're based upon sound Islamic thought. So, again, we must do this. And part of this is we take the advice from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, which he gives us in the Quran, and also our Prophet, ﷺ, and we follow it. We take it and adhere to it. We don't question it. When the Prophet, ﷺ, has ordered us not to eat pork, we don't ask why not. Hey man, I live in LA. I don't know why the Prophet got this rule. Hey, I'm used to going to the barbecue place. I'm looking for my hot link sandwich. You can't question that, my brothers and sisters. You must obey it. He took it from you. You must say, okay. Whatever he gives to you, you must say, okay. Now, here is where we start to get into trouble. The Imam, he must follow. The Imam, yajibu yatabah hada nasihat, wala yatakidu nasiha min kufr hakamiyah. Here, I just talked about here in Arabic, the Imam who follows this guidance, okay, advice from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not adopt the advice from kufr hakamiyah. What is kufr hakamiyah? Democratic ways and means, communist ways and means, Taoism, Shintoism, other makeshift governments who have their rulings and so forth and so on. This in Islam is called kufr hakamiyah. If you look at hakamiyah inside the Quran, Subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned this a few times. He says, khair hakamiyah. He is the best judges. Hakamiyah is another term. Again, kufr is disbelief. Here, the Imam cannot be on that. If the Imam of your Jamaah is on democratic ways and means, brothers, get away from him. There's no such thing as that. Again, the Imam should follow the advice of Subhanahu wa ta'ala and the advice of our Prophet and advice from our ulama and fuqaha, our learned men, and not adopt the advice from kufr hakamiyah, the UN, the Tubab governments, who always mislead. You notice many of our problems we have today is because the Tubab governments, France, Britain, Russia, and so forth, so always mislead the melanated people. Have you noticed that? Subhanahu wa ta'ala understood this. This is why he says in the Quran, khair hakamiyah. He is the best of judges. You look at that, it's there. And so therefore, he is not talking about the governance, the advice coming from the kafir. He's not talking about that. Now, we're not talking about a doctor. You go to a doctor and he is Jewish, or he's Hebrew, or he's a Christian, or he's a Hindu, or he's something, and he gives you advice to help you get well. He gives you medicine to help you get well. Or you have a cut and he comes to sew you up. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about stuff like this, my brothers and sisters. We're talking about governance. We're talking about advice that will help you, not get you in trouble with subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we're talking about here. Now, the provisions, min Allah ta'ala, Rasulana, alayhi salatu wassalam. Again, the provisions, the commands from subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, I'm going over the same thing so I can drum it in your head. The ahkam, the provisions, the command in Arabic is a big word in the Sharia and in fiqh. Ahkam, min Allah, from Allah, meaning his provisions. This is part of it. And from our prophet on every Muslim. And the imam from the Muslims and his common folk. My brothers and sisters, this is where we have to disconnect today between the rulers and the common people. We have a big, big problem in this regard. And the provisions of subhanahu wa ta'ala is either the common folk are following the provisions of Allah and our rulers are not, or our rulers are following it, but our common people are not. We have this problem today. This is why we have all these rebellions. Every week you look, you see some Muslim country is having some turmoil where you have somebody being overthrown. In Africa, period, is happening. Almost every week now, somebody's being overthrown. In the Muslim country is happening as well. And we have voting going on in Muslim countries. We just had one. Saeed probably knows about that from his country, where he's at now. And they just had their elections. And there's many reports said it was flawed. And what gets me about that, my brothers and sisters, I see that the reinstatement of the president, and he was given his bay'ah on the Quran. He's the imam of the country. And he was given his bay'ah on the Quran. And yet and still, he's not running the Sharia. He made bay'ah according to what, I don't know what has been said to him, because if he says the words that were supposed to be said under the sunnah, when you make bay'ah to him to subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to say certain words. And it can't be, I'm going to push democratic ways and means. That's not bay'ah. That's kufr. That's kufr hakamiyah. And when our leader puts his hand on that Quran, that's saying that he is going to follow that. And he's going to follow our prophet, not put our hand on the Quran and turn around and go to the Americans or the French or the British or the Irish and adopt their governments. We're Muslims. We have set rules. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is guide us there. It's easy. It's there. We have the Sharia. You follow that. But yet we have leaders, Muslim leaders, put their hands on the Quran and then walk away from the Quran and talk about a speech, how he's going to introduce democratic ways and means according to the Americans, according to the Russians, or according to the Chinese. Incredible. Incredible. We cannot have that. And it leads to further problems. And I'll say this real quickly too, because it's on topic. In Sudan, how many times they've been taken to the streets over there? Now, brothers and sisters being shot and killed a lot over there. They're taking streets. Look on the signs that you see the young punks running down the street. You see democratic this and that. We want democratic ways and means. We want democracy. Each time they put somebody in charge, no one understands what democracy means. They just say, I want democracy. Well, what do you mean? The girl says, I want to be able to take my hijab off. The man says, I want democracy because I want to smoke and drink. because under the Sharia, I have to have that. The sister says, I want to be able to take my hijab off. I want to follow Beyonce there in Los Angeles. I mean, you know, wherever she's living at, I want to follow her. So I want to make my hair, and I want to expose my hair and my beauty. This is what they look at in democracy. It's something to get away from Islam and so forth. And they keep doing what? Having revolution after revolution. And it's shameful. And I'll end with this part about Sudan. The prior president, I'm not going to get into what he was doing, what he was not doing. He had some Sharia, 30-40% of the Sharia going on. But that country had an abundance of food at that time. I know that. I was there. I was there in 2008 and part of 2009. I was there. And brothers and sisters, they had so much food, they didn't know what to do with it. So they were shuttling food to Black African countries all over the place. I'm talking about tomatoes. I'm talking about fish. I'm talking about onion, corn in particular, wheat. They had so much, they didn't know what to do with it. But today, they have nothing. Subhanahu wa ta'ala punished him. They removed the ruler because they wanted, yes, there may have been some fraud. Yes, we know some things was happening, but they removed him because they did not understand. And you notice the ulama and fuqaha were very careful there, especially my dear brother, Sheikh Yusuf. And they're very careful in what they had to say about that situation. But if you look at Sudan today, what happened to all the wheat? What happened to all the fish is still there because they have the Nile, the Nile. But their food supply is very short. Punishment from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at Libya, my brothers and sisters. They overthrew Gaddafi and killed him, rahimahullah. Yes, he had some things, but the people were living and the country was stable. They had food, money, and he was putting Libyans in houses. And he was plus giving that money to Black African countries as well. And of course, we know the West wanted him overthrown because they thought him to be a uppity Afro-Arab. And they wanted to put him in place. And they did. They killed him. Look at the country today. Look at Tunis. Tunis had now he just died here a couple months ago. Look, now that's a different situation in a sense there because he began to go after the Muslims a lot and they finally threw him out. But look at the country today. You see what I mean? It goes all the way down the line. Look at Yemen. Look at Syria. There's a lot of problems, my brothers and sisters. Again, because of these issues here. You cannot follow any imam who built his Jamaat on sin. You cannot follow that. Any imam who's built his Hakam, Allah, on sins, stay away from that. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. There were some brothers I know one time in Detroit. They had a Jamaat, and the Jamaat was growing. They were involved in a lot of stuff that they shouldn't be as Muslims. And they got killed for it. See? And so this is why I said, now some might have been shot and killed. They were innocent. They were not doing the things, but they followed the leader who was instrument in doing this. This is why I said, my brothers and sisters, how dangerous it is. Very dangerous. When you follow a Jamaat, you better know what it's for, because people die in this case. And the Tuba police were not merciful. You know how they are when they get to us. They just don't shoot one of us. They begin to shoot everybody. So be careful. As I said here before, the imam he has a special title. and he has to be a true leader. And we have to ask today, how many true leaders do we have? We have a lot of them, but you don't see them and you don't hear them because they're inside their houses, because they're trapped. They cannot come out. They're scared. That's unfortunate. Or many have been killed and many of them are sitting in prison. And so we have this problem. And the last one in this particular group is this. You cannot apply, address, and nominate a qayyid from the kuffar to lead your Jamaat. You cannot. It's forbidden, my brothers and sisters. I don't care how meaningful he or she is. If he's not a Muslim, he cannot lead the Muslims. It's forbidden. Yes, I know it's being done. I know that, especially in America in particular. I know it's being done. We have disbelievers who are actually in the management of Jama'a Islamiyah in America, in some. We know this. It's an innovation, my brothers and sisters. It's an innovation. No disbeliever should be commanding any Muslim. It's forbidden. It is forbidden in Islam. Now, again, someone will say, look, yeah. I work at McDonald's. I got a boss. My boss is he's a tubab and he's not Muslim. I'm not talking about that. When he tells you he wants you, he says, yeah, I need you to fix the hamburgers today. I'm not talking about stuff like that, my brothers and sisters. I'm talking about other issues. Where you work at, you have no other choice because that's where you live. That's your livelihood. You must obey for the common good. That common good is your family. You must put food on the table for your children and your wife. That's your responsibility as a man. So you go to McDonald's to work. And yes, he's a tubab, he's over you, or he's a brother. And, and he tells you, fix the French fries, you do this and so forth. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about when this same man who ordered you to fix the hamburgers and the French fries, and now he's nominated over an Islamic group. That's where the problem is, my brothers and sisters. It should not be. So just remember that. And secondly, there is no ta'at on any amr from the kuffar. That's right, my brothers and sisters. Now you say, hey, whoa, wait a minute, yeah, I'm hey man, I love Biden. I even voted for Biden. I think he's a wonderful tubab. This type of issue like this is different in a sense. You live in America. There's common ground. There's common place that you must adhere because you bring trouble. I give you an example of that, my brothers and sisters. If the administration tells you to do certain things, you must abide by it. Because you as a Muslim, if you turn back around and do something wrong, not only it hurts you, but they'll go after the other Muslims too. How many times we've seen that? We know how the government, especially the American government, operates on melanated men. It gives an excuse to go back to the hood to spray up the place, right? And kill a whole bunch of people. And on Muslims, they give them now the proxy to go inside the masjids to go after Muslims because of one Muslim who took matters in his own hand and did something to make crimes. They blame all of us for that. So we have to, if you live in the land of Tubab, you have to follow those rules. But if they do in violation of the Sharia, the Sunnah, it says you should leave if you can. But there's no bay'ah to President Biden. There's no bay'ah to any Tubab president. There's none. There's no ta'at on him. You cannot. Yes, he's the president of the United States. Yes, they have laws. You have to, when you travel in the car, you must abide by those laws. But you don't give your ta'at on him. You cannot. It's illegal in Islam. It's disbelief. You cannot. And I want to make sure that's clear because I know we have this I had an imam I had a big fight with when the virus, the waba in English, in Arabic, waba, the virus came down, and they were talking about closing up the masjids and so forth and so on. It was a famous Islamic group, which is, scholars galore in it. I follow it. And most of the Muslims follow it who know of knowledge. They gave fatwas telling the Muslims to close up the masjids to avoid the waba. This one brother told me he don't go by that. He's going to go by what at that time President Trump was saying. Yes, that's what he told me. Here you have the ulama giving a fatwa that was correct. I read it, and I told him, I gave it to him, and I even had it translated for him in English because it wasn't that long. So I said to him, you should follow this, my dear brother. You are the imam. How can you bring your people back to the masjid and they spread the virus? How? He said he goes by what Trump says. This is what I'm talking about. And we have a lot of that. And it's sad. And it shouldn't be. And I'm talking about that because I'm talking about the Jama'a. We must understand what the Jama'a is. This type of imam like this is one of the trouble spots we're talking about in the Jama'a. This Jama'a is in trouble. When he tells you he will not follow the fatwa from his own people, from the Ummah, from our learned man who gave a sound fatwa. They took advice from doctors. They understood what the Prophet ﷺ has said. And I give you something about this. You say, yeah, I think you're kind of harsh. No, I'm not. What is this sunnah on this? The Prophet, if you live in a city that's 30 miles away and it's full of virus, are you supposed to leave it? No, you're supposed to stay there because you spread it, right? But when you come to the masjid, what happens, especially Salat al-Jumu'ah, we got brothers coming from every place. They work in the city. They live 30 miles away, but the only masjid near them is there. They leave their place that is full of virus to come inside the masjid where you and me are sitting and waiting and praying and so forth and so on. You see what I'm talking about? That's why I said, my brothers and sisters, when you have a Jama'ah and you have an imam like this who doesn't even understand the Quran and the Sunnah, and he tells no to this, and he goes and says, I'm going to follow what Trump says about the masjids, it's a problem. Now, what are the different classifications of the imam? We know the great imam is that of the country. And our first one was who? Was our Prophet ﷺ, followed by the Rashidin, okay, the four famous Amir Mu'mineen. And the Hakim is in Arabic. This is the leader. Well, we call them imam as leader as well. The Hakim is a governor. He governs. The imam is the leader. And this is the first one. The second one is that of the masjid. Brothers and sisters, this is a troublesome today. I saw on Facebook, the brother, he was kind of right. In 99% he was right. He was telling some other people who are following, again, a Jama'ah who's full of innovations. He was trying to bring them the right way. And he was saying that they shouldn't follow. They don't have to follow these particular imams. He was correct in what he said, but you have to be very careful when you tell somebody that, because you have to give your facts to understand that. The imam could be of the masjid. And this is very interesting. Third, the imam is elected among ourselves. Again, hey, we got a bunch of brothers here. We got strong brothers. Say it's 10 of us. And we gonna say, hey, we're gonna form a Jama'a. And we'll call it Al-Nur, the light, say for instance. Somebody's got to be the imam. And we have to nominate the imam in this, because we just can't all be the imam. That's not the way the Jama'a works, my brothers and sisters. We're Muslims. We have imam We elect imam. We have consensus from a shura. So we have, say, we have 9 brothers and we have 1 amir or 1 imam, and the shura is the 9 others. They talk about it. They say, okay, we're going to nominate Yahya. So Yahya is now the imam. This is how we're supposed to do that. We don't switch imams every week. That we're Muslims. We don't do that. So I want that understood. Again, the 3 types. We have the type, the great imam, which is the head of state. The second is that of the masjid, who's nominated to come to the masjid to give prayer and so forth. And then we have those who are nominated among ourselves. Again, we got some brothers here. We say we got brothers here. We all talked about here. That's in the chat. And we say, look, man, we want to have a Jama'a. I think we got something going here. And we got 6 members only at this time. One of us got to be the imam. And you have to follow that person who's nominated. This is our rules in Islam. Now, there's also a 4th category to this as well. Some of the scholars said that the imam can be elected to lead the revolution or to lead in demonstrations. This is a temporary position. And remember, I gave something here 6 months ago, I think, about the demonstration, why I told you I don't go to them. Now I'm giving you more proof. You have to have an imam. If there's 4 or 5 of us and we have an endeavor, we must have an imam who's in charge. That's our rules in Islam. So we're getting ready to have a demonstration. Remember, I explained to you before what's happening today. Nobody knows who's in charge. And that's why we have many things that's happening around us. We don't know. And some of us get killed. Some of us get our head beaten and so forth because we don't know who's in charge. And then we have a bunch of, punks and stuff around us, and they do things and things happen. But you have to nominate a imam to run the demonstration or to run a revolution. And that in itself is a whole different matter. And I may get to some of that, but most likely I probably won't. But you have to have a leader to do this. Again, my brothers and sisters, everything that we do, we have to have somebody who is away, who's making the decision. And we have to have a shura, meaning we have to have people here to make sure that ruling is balanced. And we talk about it. We got 10 people, as I said. We have 9 people in that group. We should discuss it. I make a rule, say, hey, look, this is what I want to do. We got money, brothers. Let's go here and buy this one vacant lot here and make a masjid on it. I should confer with the brothers in our shura, okay, to discuss this. This is how we do business as Muslims. This is what we do business as Muslims. Yes, I'm the imam, but I listen to the brothers that's in the Jama'a. And then we make a decision. Excuse me, my brothers and sisters. We got pornographic popping up. They were gone last week, but now here they're popping back up here on my screen. It's really shameful. Here, this is a religious program, and they're sending smut so for me to look at. Okay. If you have a demonstration, and this happened, I know this is happening. I saw it in New York. I couldn't believe it. If you have a demonstration going on and you decide to go there, you cannot have a kafir to lead it. You cannot. I'm sorry, brothers. He is the imam. You have him to lead you as Muslims and giving you direction when he doesn't know anything about Islam. You cannot follow him, my brothers and sisters. I'm sorry. You cannot. If you have a demonstration, we have rules. And you say, well, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Let me give you some what I'm talking about. This this disbeliever who you just now put as imam of your demonstration, does he know any rules about our fraternization between men and women? No. Does he know our rules about if it's time to pray, what happens, what we should do? Does he understand the rules about our sisters who are involved in the demonstrations? No, he does not. This is what I'm talking about. So you cannot nominate a kafir, a disbeliever, to be head of your demonstration. You cannot. And if there's a kafir ahead of this, you stay away from it. You cannot be under his command. Muslims in Los Angeles, Dallas, or anywhere else, you listen to me good. You cannot follow the lead behind a kafir. I know they're doing it all over the place. I saw it in New York here. I forgot what it was. And these two brothers who followed this kafir who was running the demonstration in New York, they ended up doing something and got arrested. If we had a Muslim imam at that time, he would give instructions what to do. We listen to him and we follow his lead. This is what the imam do in Islam. And he would tell you in the demonstration, we will walk peacefully. We will not bear arms. We will not throw objects. We will not break windows. We will not overturn cars. So forth, so on. Give you rules. You follow that. Most likely you can get through your demonstration. But today in demonstrations, we don't have that. It's just a wild mob, and Muslims join it for no reason, just out of sheer, there's something they want to do. It's a laugh to them. It's an event, gives them something to do. But it's dangerous, my brothers and sisters, very dangerous. Now, as I said before, we have to be very careful. The Muslims must adhere to the Quran and Sunnah, and our imams and our Hakim, the governors and so forth must, and they are the ones here. They are responsible for the Jamaat. It's them who's responsible for leading. But you know why we're in trouble today in Muslim countries in particular? We have a myriad of Jamaat Islamiyah. In some countries, we have maybe 20 or 30. You see what I mean? And then we have a ruler, and then we have 20 or 30 Jamaat. He's not in charge of any of these Jamaat. But the rules state here that the Hakim or the Imam is responsible for the Jamaat, meaning the governor, the one who's running the country. He's supposed to be responsible for the Jamaat. But today we have 30, some countries maybe even 40 Jamaat Islamiyas in it. And he's not in charge of any of those. We have individuals in charge of those things. You see why we're in trouble? And each one are sitting out in the open. And you know what's going on with that. We have certain rulers who are very, very, very tough and cruel. And they destroy certain Jamaat Islamiyah. Because we went away from what the Jamaat is supposed to mean. It means a group that's based upon the truth. The truth meaning what? The Quran and the Sunnah. We're not talking about bid'ah from the Sufis. We're not talking about the extremes from the Salafiyah. And we're not talking about the adherence upon thought upon a famous imam that they call Wahhabi. I don't like that term. I hate that because you denigrate a beautiful, famous Sheikh of Islam who brought the truth. He brought the truth. He was part of a Jamaah. He brought the truth. But we see today we have people following that, or they're doing all kind of weird things. And this is all, again, my sisters and brothers, problem under the Aqeedah Islamiyah, why all of our famous Sheikh Islams from every era tackle this issue, because it's important. And you see the trouble that we have today. And I know some will say, well, I don't care about the Aqeedah Islamiyah. Yes, I know there's a lot of people who don't, and they suffer for it. And the Aqidah Islamiyah is something that we all have to have. It's a part of this is our religion. We should understand it. And the part of that is making our obeisance to the Imam when he's right and he's not ordering us in sin. So now we look at this. What is the proper Imam? The proper Imam, according to the Sunnah, is this. He's the head of state. He's our best diplomat. He is our best judge. He is Hafiz in the Quran, meaning he's memorized the Quran. He leads the prayer. He leads the Salat al-Jumu'ah. This is the real Imam. This is the real ruler under the Sunnah of our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, and our four famous Amir Mu'mineen, or the Caliphs, and two more after that, plus our favorite generations. This is how they operated. This is a real Imam. And I know one, but I can't mention it because since I'm still an American citizen, even if I mention where it's at, even the name, they come and say that I'm supporting terrorism. But they do have one I know who is the Imam. And he's doing this. He's head of the, when it's time for Salat al-Jumu'ah, he's leading the Jumu'ah. So this is the real Imam. This is the real Imam who does those things as I mentioned. He's the leader of the country. He's our best diplomat. He's our best judge, even though he's anointed judges around him, but he's the best of that. He's the most kind and most generous. He gives justice. He is the one who leads us in prayer. It's he, when we have Salat al-Jumu'ah, the congratulation of the congressional prayer on Jumu'ah, it's him who leads us. This is the real Imam in Islam. And they're very far in between today. We don't have that. Now, what is the rules in that? Say if our Imam cannot do certain things like this, he's supposed to appoint a Sheikh of Islam to do those things. He's supposed to announce and nominate those Muslims to be the diplomats and so forth, who's going to run the masjids. This is his responsibility to make sure that these people are under his control and they're also on the Quran and the Sunnah. We don't have that today. We don't have that today, my brothers and sisters. That's a disconnect. And you see the problems we have. Now, as I gave you that, this part, now I'm going to get to the last part. I'm going to be long a little bit today. I have to cover this. My brothers and sisters, as I talked about today, we have this all over the place. The revolution to remove the government and remove the ruler in Islam. This is a big, big problem, my brothers and sisters. And this is part of the Aqeedah Islamiyah. We can't gloss over this. It has to be mentioned. We have to talk about it, especially those in the West, because they don't understand these rulings. They see on TV what's happening and they think it's what they're doing is right, when in fact they're wrong. We have hadiths of our Prophet ﷺ condemning those who do this. He's given rules to tell you, don't overthrow your leaders. Don't overthrow their governments. And if you do, there's a very narrow window when you can do it. It's very narrow. But you can't go and do it because he doesn't want to put certain things for you that you want, and you say, okay, I want to take him out. We're Muslims. We're not supposed to do that, but we're doing it today. It's happening everywhere. Now, the hadith of our Prophet ﷺ was made it clear, even if the ruler is dalim, if he's an oppressor, you still must follow him, even though you know he's an oppressor. If he gives you directions and it's involving sin, you don't follow it. Now, if it means your life, that's different. If he tells you, he say, look, yeah, I need you to go on the corner and sell cigarettes. And if I tell him no, and he's going to take me out and throw me in the dungeon, and I got mouths to feed, and no telling, he may go there to arrest my wife and children too. So we have to be very mindful of that factor as well. But if you obey the imam, you obey Allah, and you obey our Prophet ﷺ, even if he's a dalim, if he's an oppressor, you still must follow him, my brothers and sisters. Secondly, you cannot overthrow him, even if he is dalim, oppressor. Even if you know him to take money and he's skimming money, but the masajids are open and you hear the adhan, you cannot overthrow him. These are the rules of our Prophet alayhi salatu salam, my brothers and sisters. You can't overthrow him who's running under the Sharia to bring in the government of the Americans or the British or the French or the Irish. You cannot. You cannot overthrow him and put in, remember, kufr hakamiyah. This is what we call this in the Sharia. The disbelieving governments, their governance. You cannot do that. Even if he is dalim, you can't take him out like you hear in Sudan today. My brothers, you hear, oh, democracy. And you overthrow a president who, yes, he may have been doing some things wrong that you heard, that you may not even see. But you throw him to put democracy. You cannot do this, my brothers and sisters. This is against our rules as Muslims. We are Muslims. We have to look at that. We are Muslims. Remember this. We are Muslims. We have rules that we must abide by. Even if we disagree with some of those things in our heart, we still must abide by them. And again, even if this imam of the country is harsh, but he's got the masjids open where you can go to pray and you can hear the adhan, you must leave him alone. Number 3, if this imam is involved in sin, and you know and you hear he's involved in sin. Now, how do you reconcile this with subhanahu wa ta'ala? You can't go and overthrow him. You cannot, my brothers and sisters. I'll give you some more rules to this. Here, you could talk against what you know. Here's something why there's something that's, I won't get into that, but I know there's going to be discussion about this particular issue here. Probably come not with me, with another brother here. And this is one of the issues that you have to bring up. I'm sitting in my chair here in Fez, Morocco right now. The king of the country he's got a council here. He stays here mostly now in Fez. And I understand why, because Fez, the weather here in Fez is something else. So somebody come and tell me that he's drinking beer. But I didn't see him do it. Now, I cannot talk against him. You can only talk about what you know, not what you've heard. This is our rules again about dealing with the imam, even of the masjid. Don't defame them unless you know for sure that you have seen it. You have witnessed it. Not hear it, but witness it. How many demonstrations, revolutions have been started on a lie? That one person who was mad with one ruler, and this lie spread through the whole country. By the time all the people got it from all over the place, this man had done all kinds of things, and they go to overthrow him. When the smoke is cleared, a lot of people died from it. We found out that it was one person who did not like the imam of the country, and he got thousands killed for it. That's why it's dangerous, my brothers and sisters. Very dangerous. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother King. So again, my brothers and sisters, if you know of it, you can talk against it. But even that, there's rules for that. And you're okay with subhanahu wa ta'ala because you saw a wrong. You can only change what you can with your hands, but if you can't with your heart, with your tongue. So you have to be prudent in what you do. You know that. You have to be very prudent. You don't have an army behind you. So you have to be very prudent. You talk against it. Even if it's to your wife, you can talk to her. You're cleared because you're voicing your complaint about what you saw, but you can do nothing about it. You're okay because you're covered by Allah. Well, if you go and clap your hand and support it, this is where you have the problem. You see the difference, my brothers and sisters. I'm giving you the differences here in the issues of fiqh. You know that the imam, the ruler of the country, you know he's in sin because you saw him. And you go and clap and applaud and you don't talk against it. Again, preface that, you know what I mean by that. I'm talking about hypothetically, because sometimes you talk against and you saw something, you're going to end up in jail for it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about hypothetical way it should be. And so again, the ruler of the country, you have to be very careful on what you say. You must talk what you know and not go by what someone else has said. You cannot. The Muslim must listen, obey the imam, again, unless he's involved in sin. If he brings you involved in sin, that you must talk against it. You must talk against this. And you must say no to it. But again, you have to be very careful in how you do it. And you have to have the knowledge. I can't stress this because when we talk about backbiting, we're talking about things. There's some rules to this. This is not an easy subject to talk about. This is a different class in itself. When you talk about backbiting, especially when you talk about rulers, there's certain rules that accompany him. So when you talk about backbiting, it's just more than the gossip. There's rules and there's different classifications of that gossip. And you have to understand this in fiqh. And one of these is dealing with the rulers. Now, how important is that? Let's look at the Prophet ﷺ and look what subhanahu wa ta'ala said when Aisha, radiallahu anha, what happened? When they made a lie on her and said that she was out there fornicating. Remember that? People went after her based upon what others had said. This is why when you talk about a subject like this, you got to bring history and you got to bring many different things to it. Not just to say, well, hey, you're not supposed to say this. You got different rules when you talk about the imam of the country. Or you talk about the imam of the masjid. You must be careful in talking against him and bringing out something that you do not know. Be careful of that. And we cannot orchestrate the demonstration against the government without the advice of the ulama. Now we know them to be handcuffed today. They can't talk. That's why I said to you, my brothers and sisters, the demonstrations that you see today, you stay away from them, because you don't have approval from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. You don't have approval of the ulama and the fuqaha, our scholars, because they may not be able to talk. You're in a bad position. When you hear everybody's going to go take to the streets, who is the imam of the demonstration? You don't even know that. Why are they demonstrating? What if that demonstration is based upon a lie? This is why I said, my brothers and sisters, we're Muslims. We have to weigh all of these issues before we act. This is why this is part of the Aqeedah Islamiyah, what I'm giving you today. It may be boring to some, but it's an important topic, because why? You turn on your TV set, you see people, what they're doing. I want to clear this up with my brothers and sisters in the United States who may see this in the future, because there's not a lot of information on this, and people are confused about what they can do and what they can do against the imam, what they can say against him. Can they remove him? They have to, there's rules to this. Now, the issue of the relationship with the government, and we have a problem, okay? In Islam, we have a problem. We see things for ourselves, and we have enough. Say we have a Jamaat. Okay, say I'm the leader of the Jamaat. I'm the imam. I'm the imam of the Jamaat. Say we have 20 brothers and sisters. Say, for instance, and I don't have the knowledge on what I think the imam is doing or what I saw him do, or there's things that people under his command are doing. You must take this to the people of knowledge. And the proof of this is in Surah Nahl, and it's the verse is 43, my brothers and sisters. And when you do not know something, you go to the people of knowledge. This is where we as African Americans fall a lot. We don't want to take knowledge from one another. This is a big problem that we have, especially, I know, inside the United States. We don't want to take the knowledge from another brother who is more learned than you. We have jealousy, and we have the crab in the barrel theory. Here, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is telling you, you do not have certain knowledge, you go to the people who do have it. That's right. So here, if we have a disagreement, we have something we want to do, we go to the people of knowledge to help us. This is what we're supposed to do. If we have problems with the imam, we're supposed to do this. And we go to the people of knowledge. We have rulers, and we have brilliant scholars, but we know many of them can't talk. We understand that. And this is why we have to be very careful today, my brothers and sisters, in what we do. Since we don't have their blessing, we should be very careful on going out in the streets. We should be very careful of what's uttering from our tongue, because we don't have the blessings from our ulama and fuqaha. We don't have that. And to be honest with you, my brothers and sisters, this is me. I'm being extremely conservative about this. This is not Wahhabism or this Sufism. No, it's not. Or terrorism. This is not. I'm being very conservative about this because I want to err. If I don't want to err, I'd rather err in conservative, being I'm not sure of something, where I'm safe with Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, with my brothers and sisters, and with the imam. If I don't have a fatwa, a standing fatwa, like they used to do, the Murabitun, this is one of my favorite Mujahideen groups that's here in Morocco, that in the 10th century. These brothers and those after that, they ran, when they wanted to do something, they got a fatwa from the learned men. This is what I've said. You heard me say this before. I prefer that. If I'm going to take to the streets, I want to see some paperwork. I want to see one of our scholars give us the fatwa saying, yes, you go out and do this. Why? Because he has the knowledge to know that something's happened with the imam. He's given us the fatwa to say this has happened. We don't have that today. We only have scuttlebutt. We have rumors. We have backbiting. We have naima. There's a lot of terms in Arabic we call things like this. I won't get in that because someone's going to have a class in that, a program on it. I don't want to get into that. But we have to be careful and mindful, my brothers and sisters, of this. This is why I told you, I'd rather sit here in the chair knowing and talk against what I think has happened, what I have knowledge of knowing, than to take the streets when I don't have the authority to do it. This is what I advise you today, my brothers and sisters. Be very careful of this. Learn this part of the Aqeedah Islamiyah, the Jama'a. Learn about that. Learn about the Muslim ruler. You can find it in the hadiths. They're there. Sahih Muslim, they're there in Bukhari. They're there. Learn about that role, about the imam, what you can do and what you cannot do. Now, you have to be very careful when we talk about the imam. We have to be very careful, my brothers and sisters, when we defame him. We have to be very careful. Even though we speculate on something, just be mindful. Be mindful of that, because subhanahu wa ta'ala and the angels are writing your book. If you defame the imam when you don't have the proof of it, then you have a problem. Now, what are the conditions? And I'll be closing here. What are the conditions about the imam of the Jama'a? The imam of the conditions that you can maybe take him out. Even that is even strong. It's very difficult. These are classes in itself. I'm just giving you the preliminary. One is you have to see the imam, the masjid, imam of the Jama'a, the imam of the country, the ruler of the country, in open kufr. What I mean by that is we have modern times today. He's on TV and you see the ruler getting the Quran, throwing it on the ground and stopping it. This is what we call kufr mubin. This is blatant kufr, disbelief. Now you witness that. The ulama and fuqaha should act on that at that time. Even you still should wait before you try to act on it. But you can talk against what you saw, but you wait until those who have authority over us have something to say about it and give us direction. If they make ridda, apostasy, from their kalam. Now, these things are blatant, not what you heard. We're sitting here in our chair now. Some come running into the house here and say, yeah, you didn't hear? Oh, man, guess what happened? The imam, he made apostasy. That's what we mean, he made apostasy. Well, he did this, he did that. I said, how do you know? Everybody's talking about it in the city now. Back away from that. You don't have no proof. Stay away from that. You don't have no proof of that. So you back away from that. Even though he's your good friend or even a relative, you didn't see it, you don't have verification of it, stay away from talking about it and denouncing it. Now, if you have open talk against the Quran from the imam, these are some of the signs that it's time to him to be removed. If he gives open talk against the Quran and the Sunnah, that's some of the conditions. If this imam goes to lock up the masjids without right, I'm not talking about when there's repairs or there's some things going on, we have a virus and you close down. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about closing the masjids so people can't pray in them because out of out of disbelief, out of anger, or whatever. So he closes up all the masjids. This happened in Tunis here when this other president there, what did he do? He retaliated against the people. He closed up the masjids, and you don't do that. And everybody in that country rebelled. That was open disbelief. So those are some of the things I'm talking about here. Arresting the imam without right. I mean, these things are happening all over the place today. And based upon rumors, it's wrong. Another part of this, you may be able, when he puts a kafir in the government to rule over the Muslims. Here's your imam. And he's now got a kafir running Muslims. Okay? You see him on TV giving rulings to the Muslims. This may be a vehicle for him to leave. Because now he's put a kafir to run the country, to run Muslims. That you cannot do that. And this is open, blatant kufr. If you put him as the head of state, meaning he's the Secretary of State, used for example, or he's head of certain things, can't do it. Now, again, blatant disregard, blatant talk against the Quran, talk against subhanahu wa ta'ala, talks against the Sharia of the Sharia Islamiyah. He talks against that. These type of things can lead to things why you can go against him. But even that, we have to be very careful on that. Some of the ulama and fuqaha have stated the fifth condition to this, saying that we can do it if we can win. And they don't advise it. Now, even if that imam is put to kuffar in cabinet positions to run the Muslims, you can't take him out because his military has all the modern high-tech madness that they got from America. And we'll lose thousands of brothers and sisters to try to throw him out. This is what some of the fuqaha ulama is saying today. You can't remove that ruler. You have to think of what the consequences of it would be. Even though he's got the kafir, even though you saw him on TV, it's out there. Even the fuqaha ulama saw him. He took the Quran, he threw it on the ground, and he stomped on it. But his army is powerful, and he's also backed by the Americans. Maybe you should not try to overthrow him, throw him out, because you'll die for it. And many others, innocent people, may die because of it, because you can't take him out. His army's too strong. When he's got all the high-tech military madness behind him, then he's got the two Bob governments behind him too, he may not be able to do it. They say you should not do anything at this time, but talk against talk against him and so on and so on. Disobey him. That's about all you can do, because you can't take him out because of the military. The Jama'a Islamiyah is governed by the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is the Deen Nasiha, the religion of advice. This is what subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Again, we have problems in this area as African Americans in particular. When I gave you class, I was talking about how some African Americans who are deviant in their Al-Qaeda, deviant, will go after the students of knowledge, the intellectuals of Islam, and the scholars of Islam will go against them by calling them names when they gave them advice on the religion of Islam. But under the Al-Qaeda, this part is Deen Nasiha, meaning the religion of advice. We are to what? Give this advice, even as to the imam of the country, even if it's to me. This is our religion. Deen, the Deen religion, Nasiha, the advice. even to me, even to any of the Muslims, if the circumstances, you must give the advice according to the religion. This is ours. Why? Because we have checks and balances in Islam. We have checks and balances, my brothers and sisters. And this is how we do this. Mizan, we have this middle ground. And here, the Jama'a and the Imam of the Jama'a who's running it, and those under it, the Deen Nasir. This is a hadith talking about this issue. And in this issue, how do you do this? If the ruler is doing something, you must pull him in private and talk to him. You send him a letter if you can do this. If you have access to him, you talk to him in private. You don't get on TV and you begin to defame him, even though you know he's in sin. That's a no-no under this issue here. It's a no-no. You should not do that. Now, there may be circumstances that may have to happen if we have leaders or learned men come to say we need to talk openly about it. Now, I'll give you an example of this. We have a famous Sheikh of Islam that's there in the United States who made a devastating fatwa here about a year ago. And you should have seen the ulama fuqaha around the world erupted, and they went after the brother for it, and they're supposed to. This is why I disagree with many of the people. They don't want nobody to talk to them when they have misled the country, the Muslims. He gave a fatwa authorizing grave worship. That's shirk billah. Yes, this is a famous Sheikh of Islam in the United States did this. And the brothers everywhere took him to task for it. Deen Naseha. This is what this means. They advised him. Some advised him in private. Others wrote him letters. But the Fuqaha ulama said it was important that we got on the tube to talk so we won't mislead the people. Why? Because we have people in Mali and other places, especially in Africa, who do grave worship. They were looking for somebody to give them a fatwa saying it was okay. They got it when it was not okay. It's shirk billah. It's not authorized. We have hadiths to prove that. But he gave a fatwa authorizing it. So the Deen Naseha was used to counter him and to advise him. Some in letters, some talked to him in private, and then the others went on TV to denounce it, to correct it. They didn't call him names. They didn't say he was this, he was that, or he's a punk, or he was that. No, they corrected his fatwa. So that's what you have to do. Again, you write a letter to him. You talk to him in private if you can, and you be kind with him. And there's a time that you have to be forceful. If you have open kufr, you have to be forceful in it. And you have to pick the right time to do it. But you have to correct it because you mislead, like this fatwa here. This gave all of these people who were looking for this the impetus now to do grave worshiping. And those Muslims who weren't doing it started to do it. Because now many of them wrote, "Thank you, Sheikh. Sheikh, thank you for doing this. Now I can worship my ancestors." Yes. So I'm giving you this today. I'm long because I'm trying to help you to get this understanding of the Jama'a and the Imam, what you can do and what you cannot do. Now, the ulama and fuqaha must protect the common people. And we don't have that today. They should be out giving instructions to stop the stuff that we see that's in Sudan. to see the stuff that's happening in Tunis. Stop some of the stuff that's happened in Libya, in some other Muslim countries. But we don't have that because they're silenced. They can't. And it's hurting us. And the common people are taken to disbelief now in their desires. And we see this in Sudan a lot. And we have to stop that. The ulama and fuqaha has to guide the Muslims to the right path, not to the wrong path that leads them to the fire. This is what we call here the tariq ila yamin, the tariq ila shimal. To the right is going towards Jannah. To the left is going to the fire. This is what subhanahu wa ta'ala uses verbiage inside the Quran. So they have to do this. They have to do that. And now who is best to give the advice to the imam who's doing this? It should be our leaders. It should be the strongest of us who have the knowledge and wisdom to talk to the leader. I go back to Sudan again. When the president here some years back was about ready to be overthrown, my good brother, Sheikh Yusuf, and him and a bunch of other scholars and imams went to him and gave him Deen Nasiha. He rejected it. And shortly after that, he was overthrown. They were trying to bring him to the right way to save the country. He refused it. But they went to him and they talked to him in private to get him to change. He refused. But they tried. So our most learned people should go to the imam to counsel him, not the common folk. They don't have the knowledge and the wisdom to do it. This is important also, my brothers and sisters. You are common folk, all of us who are down, you have the right to write a letter or even go to the fuqaha ulama and explain to them your opposition to it. And they should be able to give you guidance for that. Again, if you see him in open sin, I see the imam coming out of a whorehouse, say for instance, I'm not to defame him. I'm not to go on TV or film him and go on TV to have the film shown him coming out of a whorehouse. This is the imam of the country. He's sinful. You cannot do that. It's got to be avoided because these are sinful acts. This is not open kufr. This is sinful. He likes certain women, so he goes there and he's he goes to the house of this woman. You don't film him and then you get on TV and you denounce him. You cannot do it, my brothers and sisters. You cannot. So I'm giving you this advice now. Don't do it. But we see this. And sometimes this is even a lie. They get on TV and say, guess what the ruler of the country did? When in fact, they had no knowledge if he did it or not. And lastly on this, the Muslim should give his advice, again, to the ruler in secret. The fuqaha ulama should give this in secret, as I specified before. You have to do this. And we, as brothers and sisters, should advise us in this regard as well. We should police one another. Because today we don't have the really ready available of our scholars and most learned men at our disposal. We don't have that. So we should talk among ourselves and we should find those that we can trust to give us information about subjects like this. And that way you will be covered with subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it's important, because the ultimate goal is that we follow him and we follow his prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. This is our ultimate goal. And so what I gave you today should help you to understand a lot of the ins and outs about the Jama'a. Remember, the Jama'a could be one person. Our first Jama'a was our Prophet himself, because everyone else was involved in kufr and shirk. He was on truth of Tawheed. And so the Jama'a, again, is based upon truth, irrespective of the quantity and quality. But if it's not based upon the way of the Prophet, والسلام, it's not a Jama'a. That's why the 72 of them and his Hadith are going to the fire. Even though they're Jama'a Islamiyah, but they're not on his way, they're going to the fire. This is why I was saying to you before, why we have to be very careful when we join the Jama'a Islamiyah. As you heard me say, I openly declare this. I say I do not follow and will not follow any of them. I will not join their groups. I will not. Because I know them to be the 72 that's going to the fire. And the people in them, a lot of them are something else. We got hypocrites in there too. We have hypocrites that are doing things inside these Jama'a Islamiyah. We have those involved in all kind of bid'ah. You have to stay away from the Islamic groups today because they're flawed tremendously, my brothers and sisters. This is my advice. You stay away from them. And you learn your Aqidah. This is the best that you should do. Spend your time to learn the Aqidah from somebody with knowledge. So that way you are covered. That you don't get sucked in to these Jama'a Islamiyah and get you in jail or get you, killed, or to end up going to the hellfire. That's what you have to avoid and have to be very careful of this. So again, my brothers and sisters, in a nutshell, I was long today on this, but I had to give this out. And I'm hoping that this will pique your interest in learning your Aqidah. My brothers and sisters, don't get caught in a mob and you end up getting killed for it. Because on the day of judgment, your niyyah will be examined. If your niyyah is not right, that's going to be bad for you. And if the question was asked, you joined a mob, who was the imam? Did the imam give you instructions to do this? And you remember something in Islam. The imam is ordained to give commands, the rightful ones. If something happens and you follow his orders and you're doing it with the right niyyah, you're not held for that. I mean, he made a mistake and say he gave an order, but he made a mistake and something happened to you because of that. You're okay because on the surface of it, it looked okay. But things that are blatant, he go tell you to pick up a gun to go shoot some people. You don't follow that. He tell you, look, we're going to go on a demonstration here. When you turn the corner, you begin to knock out the windows and go get guns so we can go fight the police. You don't follow that. And this is what I'm talking about, my brothers and sisters, because we have this everywhere and it's happening too much. And we have ignorance. And when you ask the Muslims, why did you follow this? You get a variety of answers. When you ask them who gave the authorization for this, they don't know. Why are you taking to the streets? Because this is what I heard. But did you know this to be a fact? No, you did not. So why did you take to the streets? And that's why you had to be very careful. Why did you talk against the imam, the ruler of the country, when you had no knowledge? How could you say that he was a kafir when in fact you don't know? You don't know if he's praying or not because he's behind the castle. He's in a castle. How would you know he's praying or not? This is what I'm trying to get you to understand, my brothers and sisters. And then when the word come out, the ruler has now put a Jew, a Hebrew, in charge of the Justice Department. This is a rumor. And everybody gets to take to the streets. Then you come to find out that the man that the ruler nominated his uncle is a Jew or Hebrew, not him. And you took to the streets, and some people got their heads busted. Others are thrown in jail. Others have made a dreadful sin in Islam by is what we call this. And this is in chapter, I think, 49. Who's your writer? 48. I can't remember which one it is. Someone talks about this. And this is what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters. We have this going on as we speak today. And then when you go and ask Yahya, hey, man, you said this. Did you have proof? Did you see was he praying or not? Do you have knowledge of that? Did he actually put a Hebrew or Jew head of the Justice Department? Did you know if it was true or not? See? So my brothers and sisters, we have to be very mindful and careful. I gave you all of this. You can play this thing back. You can give it to to other brothers and sisters to look at this. But it's very important that we follow the right things, because we have too many Muslims being shot and killed in Sudan, in Libya, and other places of Muslim countries. We have too many, and they're following the wrong things. We have too many Muslims defaming the rulers when in fact they have no knowledge of his kufr or his shirk or his in sin. We have no knowledge of it, only rumors. So today you heard me talk about that and to stay away from that. So my brothers and sisters, this class, to be honest too, is very long. There's a lot to this. And I talk about these issues to help you. This is for the true Muslim who wants to know and learn his deen. This is what this is about. Many of us don't even know anything about the Aqeedah, and we don't want to know about it. But anybody who's learning Arabic, or who I think the Sheikh has his book translated now. I'm not sure, but I think he's got that. I think he's got his book. I think he's got his book translated now. But I'll give you the name of it in Arabic here. I'll give you the so. أصول في the oh, I can't get it. I can't write that. But it's anyway. The you look at my title, you see the Asul fi Aqida, and then it's a Risalatin to Shimal Mia. This is the name of the title of this book. And anybody interested in it, you should pick it up. And it gives you all the ins and outs about the beginning courses of the Aqeedah, which is important. And my brothers and sisters, I thank you for those who showed up and those who will show up in the future. And like I said, this is for the Muslims who want to understand their deen, and so they don't make mistakes in regards to the imam of the country, imam of the masjid, and so forth and so on. If you know the man is in sin, you do not have to follow him. You don't have to obey him. We know this for a fact. And so this is something that we have to understand. And you can even apply this, to be honest, even with the Jews and the Christians. Because if you have a man, you know he's openly in sin, and you know this to be a fact, you should be very mindful of you following him, because subhanahu wa ta'ala is not happy for that. And he should be taken out. See, so So, my brothers and sisters, I will leave you with this, and I'm so amazed at what is happening in the world with the Muslims in this topic. It's really disheartening. It's very disheartening, and I'm hoping I shed light to it to help you to do your studies in this topic. So, my brothers and sisters, thank you, Sister Abina, for showing up. My brother King Kenyada, thank you, my brother Isaac, thank you for showing up. My brother Saeed, thank you, and Sister Amina, thank you for showing up today. I know I was long, and those that's sitting in the looking from the safeties of their home and wherever they're at, thank you for showing up. And my brothers and sisters, I'll leave you with the beautiful words of Jannah. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.